Hello, everybody. We're here today to talk about Drake's impact on the music industry. And I am Justin Shetrawski, and I'm with.
Grace Serrano.
So, I'm here to talk about Drake and his early life and his music history. His real birth name is Aubrey Drake Graham. He was born on October 24th, 1986, in Toronto, Canada. He grew up with music in his blood. His dad was Dennis Graham. He was a drummer for the rock and roll star Jerry Lee Lewis. As you can tell, Drake grew up with a music centered family. He took full advantage of this and would potentially be the biggest face in the music industry for new millennials. As a boy, his parents split up and divorced, so he was raised by his mother in a small town called Forest Hill. He went to a predominantly all white school. It was a Jewish Catholic type school, and he felt out of place because he was black and Jewish, so he felt like he never really could relate to anybody. But he says that that makes him a stronger person and helped build him as a character. He was an actor before his music industry debut. He was actually in a show called Degrassi, which is a big time show in Canada, which made him very famous in Canada, but not so much in the U.S. So he was still unknown to people in the U.S., so it kind of gave him a breakthrough opportunity for the music industry. He ended up getting an unexpected phone call from Lil Wayne, who was actually one of the biggest faces in the music industry at the time. So he ended up going on the Carter 3 tour with Lil Wayne, where he contemplated a lot of tracks with Trey Songz and Lil Wayne himself. And when he was finished with the tour, he ended up releasing his third album called So Far Gone, which was actually, it went platinum. One of his best tracks at the time was Best I Ever Had, which peaked at number 2 on the Billboard's Hot 100 Singles chart, which is pretty revolutionary coming from only selling 6,000 copies of an album to having a top 100 song, or top 10. He ended up signing a deal with Lil Wayne's Young Money Entertainment, which is Lil Wayne's record label. And with that being said, in 2010 he released his first official studio album called Thank Me Later. This album would debut at number 1 on both America and Canadian album charts and was certified platinum. Although his career was flourishing, he ran into some roadblocks and legal troubles. This included a brawl that left some bystanders injured and followed with lawsuits. This brawl was with Chris Brown over fellow singer Rihanna, and they argued about, I'm not sure what they argued about, but I know that they were fighting because Rihanna had feelings for both of them, or it was a big tragic event. So there was lawsuits that were involved. People were injured. Some of the people that were injured were some female actors and basketball player Tony Parker. And he eventually ended up releasing Views in 2015, which was an instant success, debuting at number 1 and spending 13 weeks atop Billboard charts.
Okay, so now we'll be talking about Drake's best-selling albums. Starting with Think of Me Later, it was released in 2010. With this debut album, Drake became a rapper who was worth to take seriously. The second of the list is What a Time to Be Alive, released in 2015. It was written and recorded in 6 days. Drake collaborated with Future, who in the show stole Drake's spotlight for most of the time. It says that when it came to shows and stages, Future stole Drake's spotlight. The album was more, it was between both of them, but it was more of Drake. And it says that Drake was more of a side man than the actual singer of the album. And that's what happens when it comes to singing and all this business, where you don't know whenever somebody's gonna take your place. The third of the list is If You're Reading This It's Too Late, released in 2015. Drake released this album with no warning. It was a surprise for listeners and just as to people that I would mention in this album, because see, this album was not like singing and like music. It was more about talking back to people that offended him in past time. So it was a huge surprise to everybody. With this album proves that Drake is one of the best and stronger rappers in the game. And last but not least, the Scorpion album released this same year, 2018. As we know, Drake is a brilliant person and good rapper. In this album, there were a few glimpses of Drake's brilliance, as expected from a 90 minutes album. The album was so good to listeners that it was #1 for 4 weeks in the Billboard chart, being the album with the most weeks atop the list in 2018. So now a little about Drake's impact to the world or to his generation. In Joe.ie page, Rudy Kinsella gives an opinion of why Drake is the most important artist of the generation. As a rapper and person, Drake has changed music. He represents a new image of a young man that the music industry or people have never seen before. He talks openly about his mistakes and talks about women with respect and how good he is. Nowadays, it's very difficult to find a rapper that does not talk about drugs and guns, but Drake changed the perspective of music by his lyrics. Rap music goes hand in hand with masculinity and toughness, but Drake took this stereotype and threw it out of the window. The way he talks about his feelings have made his critics to call him soft. Before his If You're Reading This Is Too Late album, he said, "If I die, I am a legend." And frankly, he's not wrong. So we already know about Drake's way of talking about girls, the change of rap stereotype. But now let's talk about how good as a person he really is. His most important song in his Scorpion album is called God's Plan. As people know from the video, we can see how Drake is giving people money. He helped people from various ages and backgrounds. Even though Drake did all that to help people, is an inspirational and life-changing thing that will be thought to any artist top. He donated $25,000 to Miami Senior High School and gave students fresh uniforms. This school is the first to be represented by OVO, that is Drake clothes line. After the high school, Drake moved on to donate $50,000 to University of Miami student to help cover for tuition. He donated to her because he read his scholarship essays and how hard she worked for it. So he decided in his heart to choose just this particular student and donated $50,000 to help her. After this, he also donated $50,000 to the women's homeless shelter and paid for everybody's purchase in a supermarket in Miami. With all this being said, Drake is honestly a person with a big heart who made it and wants others to make it as well. God bless him and his fame and has made him bigger in the rapper and the music industry. And he wants to bless others with what he has. Thank you everybody for listening. This was Grace Serrano and Justin Shetrawski for Humanities 2020.